Okay, what's up YouTube? I'm back. I'm going to, we're doing a anti-roll bar install, housing mounted anti-roll bar install for Britani and Lance more. So I figured I would take this advantage to actually cover some cool tech stuff and kind of give you some ideas of things that we look for and ways that we would do this install. But these are the parts that you can buy direct from the website. I'll give you some tech tips. I think that'll probably work out good. So let's go ahead and flip this around and I'll show you kind of what we're working with. So it's a, I think this thing is like a mid to late 90s Camaro, you know, the round body one, quick performance housing, kind of atypical type stuff. The car just really needs an anti-roll bar. You know, anytime you change from bushings to rod ends, this is additional articulation that's allowed. So it's great because it's stronger. You have more adjustment points. Everything about it's better, right? Like that's the way that you want to go. You got rod ends and the torque arm and all that stuff. All this stuff's great, but it allows it to articulate a whole bunch, right? So this thing we're gonna go ahead and do. So we're gonna mount brackets to the housing here, tube that runs across here, connects again back over here. And then there's a great spot on the frame rail right there that we're gonna double this spot up, land a set of tabs right here, and then the link arms will go up. This one, we were gonna do the weld-on style arm, but the width to get this out to here, because I don't wanna go in and add another cross member up there. Could you? Sure, but it's just not really worth it, right? So you mean you could add another tube, I'd have to move a fuel pump and do a bunch of things like that. Not worth it. This is like the last suspension upgrade this car really needs based on what the expected performance is. So there's just not motivation to go any further. So the anti-roll bar is the last piece. We're gonna go ahead and ditch these tie down tabs because they're kind of a pain. It'd be a nice tie down tab right here in the corner. So it should be nice. So this thing's now gonna have the aluminum arm. It'll be facing on the outside of the bearing housing this way, link arm up there. So it should be pretty slick once it's all said and done. So there's this is the goal and what we're gonna do. So let's go over and go check out what we got going on so far. Okay, so got Mikey to help me. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna show you the first step. So I wanna show you where we wanna land. I know that we already want to. We're gonna put one arm there. And then we're gonna put one arm there. We just need to find the length. So we've already measured this up and it's going to be 38, but Mike's going to help me hold the tape measure up there. And you can kind of see that. So going to just go like middle of the frame rail. Yeah. So 38 honestly gets us like perfect on the frame rail right about there. So you can see that's pretty much where it's going to land. He's on the center of his frame rail. We're on the center of mine. So there's our 38. So then we come over here to the bench and we're going to measure out, you know, because this is how you're going to establish. Let's put this down and see if we can make this better so you can see what I'm doing here. So, yep, you can see, cool. So what I'm going to do is just take the arms, put the stub in like that, set it on the table. I got both of the arms right there. And these tables are always cool. You don't necessarily need to have one of these, but you know, doesn't hurt. So I'm going to set the arm right to the edge right there. Set the other arm to the edge right there. And then remember, if you measure from the inside face here to the outside face of the other one, it'll give you the center line because it has you've added in the whole size of the piece there. So I'm going to set this on the outside over there. And then find the inside of this guy right at 38, right? So now we have, let's flip this around again. Sorry, this video is probably gonna be terrible, but I think it'll make sense too. So I've gone ahead and, so we'll go to the outside of that one. Oh man, it's not strong enough to hold itself. So I just put a 1, 2, 3 block on the top. So you can see I got the tape measure on the outside there. And now I've got the tape measure strapped over here and you can see that's to the inside right there. So that's the inside of this arm, outside of that arm. It takes into account the width and divides it by 2, which is what we want. So we know that we're 38-inch center line for where our arms are gonna meet. Now we can come in, flip that guy around, aim it down a little bit. Can we see what's going on? Almost. And so I take my tape measure back. And so now I've got my stub here. So now I can actually figure out what my length of my piece of tube needs to be. And my piece of tube is 36 3/8. So then let's see what this piece of tube already is. It's cut. Yep, 36 3/8. So then I can go ahead and verify. I'll slide this in there. Slide this in there. I'm gonna go ahead and hold my tape measure down again right there. Reach over here. It's actually just ended up at what, 37 and 13/16. So it's just a hint short. So, you know, make sure that you cut once, measure twice, cut once kind of thing. So, you know, there you go. So that's how you would establish, that length of that tube very easily. So Matt might have, I measured this out, and I'm doing this just for the video purposes. This was already fabbed up, so he might have selected a 37 3/4 center line, and I've just sloppily measured, and that might actually be the reason there. So you could see though, you know, make sure that you get your numbers proper from start to finish, and that'll help you a bunch. So yeah, next step, we've got the bearing housings ready to go here. Got the little tiny washer in there to make sure, like this is a 20 thousandths thick washer. This is just going to make it so when you weld this thing together, it stays out and it doesn't collapse, right? So we're going to figure out our tube length through here. So now basically we can slap our bearings on. We'll slide this over like that. Slide this over like that. This has been mocked up now, and now we can measure for the tube that goes across right there. We could set this back on the table, get it all tacked in, and then go check it and put it on the car and make sure it's where we want to be. So, okay, moving forward. All right, so we're actually ready to tack this thing. And so here's the deal, is that this stub in the end has this clover leaf design on it. So you can weld this in crooked, right? And then the arms will be out of phase. That's no good. So you want to make sure that you've got your entire anti-roll bar mocked up on the bench. Make sure that the ends are bottomed out where they need to be. You can see that there's a super nice chamfer there. Lots of weld surface. This will hold really nice. The arms are set. I have them setting on a piece of aluminum right here that'll isolate them to make sure we don't arc. Got my ground clamp available down there. Put my ground clamp right here on the tube. Tack weld this unit there. Tack weld that unit right there. It's isolated there. If it does want to jump through the table, it's not going to want to, because obviously our ground clamp is here. But this isolates it and makes sure that A, we're not going to scratch them up, and B, there's no chance of it arcing from the steel to the aluminum, because it'll cause a big old pop on it, especially because these are already anodized, so it'll be really obvious if that happens. So there you go. There's one little, there's one additional tech tip for getting this going. So keep on going. Okay, so this thing is all mocked up. Let's peel this back a little bit real quick. So got that, just got a couple tack welds right there on that joint. Something to be mindful of, this is probably a joint best TIG welded, because you're just not going to want an excessive amount of material on there. Any extra material that reaches past the tube has to be sanded clean in order to make the bearing go past it. So no matter what, you're kind of in that situation. A lathe works great, or just taking your time with some kind of belt sander or something, just to make sure that that's dialed in. Another thing to consider is that I have this configured. It's going to fit on the car properly. This head of the bushing is just going to rest against the arm right there. That's going to stop the side to side. You could, in fact, run this arm, or run this bearing, slide this in a little ways. Okay, so let's just say that we needed to have this extra reach right here because we didn't have somewhere to reach. I have this little washer that can be welded around the tube. Now, you can't put the washer to the outside like this, right? Because this would make it so the bearing would never come back off. This would have to be to the inside, and this bushing would have to be facing the opposite way, right? Which just means you put this together going the opposite direction, and then that could be there. And so if these two washers are here, and the bearings in this head of the bearing fits against, or bushing fits against there, that'll also stop it from moving. You don't have to stop it with the arms. You can stop it with the arms. It's one less thing to weld and a little less stuff to be in the way. And since you have to clean this up anyways to make this, get this over there, you might as well just do that, right? Like, to me, it kind of just makes sense. Less things welded on, less stuff, less work. So slide this unit back over here. So then I grab my tape measure. I want to measure from this inside face here, inside face there. I found 36 and 36 and 5/16. I ended up just going ahead and cutting it closer to 35 and a quarter. That'll give me just a teensy weensy bit of clearance there. Let that anti-roll bar float. I would rather this move smooth and easy and have a tiny bit of side-to-side movement than this being like pinched, right? And having some having some tightness to it. So we want this thing to turn as easy as it can without it being loose and clanky, right? Like a little bit of friction is good, but a lot is bad. Or you know what I mean? Like it shouldn't be super tight. So that tube you can see gonna fit right there and right there, and away we go. So, okay, next step. Okay, so I got that tube tacked in. Sorry, the plasma's running in the background. There's nothing I can do about it. It's on like an hour-long program. It just is noisy here. So got this little tube tacked in there. It actually turns out that I grabbed a 3 1/4 bracket, so I actually need to cut this back off and verify that. It looks like we're gonna cut these tie-down tabs off because it's in the way. Went ahead and got this kind of lined up with where this is gonna be from here to here. I just got a couple pole jacks under this thing. I found these big-ass reusable zip ties at McMaster-Carr. They're a couple dollars a piece. Got the little red clasp on them, you can reuse them. This way, if I knock the pole jack out of the way, my whole thing doesn't just fall on the ground and dent the shit out of it. So that's good, but you see the fitment on there is good. We got clearance, a little bit of clearance there. We're actually gonna roll this thing this way just a little bit, which we can because we're mounted to a circle. I've got these cool tubes that are pre-notched off the Tube Dragon, and this little guy will slip in, notch to there, and go to there, so that'll support that. So when he goes to jack it up, it'll jack up nice. So yeah, so we went ahead and this is just like I said, it's mocked up. We got the arms here, kind of get a visual of where we're gonna go there. We need to sand this off up there, sand the housing down right there, sand it up there. So yeah, this is just the first little trial assembly. Everything looks like it's good. Our measurements are happy. And yeah, this is what it looks like. So I will grab some more video once we get going. Okay, update. We were working on this thing for a couple hours now. It did get fully welded. So we ended up getting, you saw earlier, we had this thing mocked up. Had my safety zip ties on there and a couple jack stands. These tubes come in the kit. They already come pre-notched. You can see they fit up pretty good. So, you know, just got that kind of rolled up and set. So originally this bracket, if you look at it on the computer, it shows it to the front. It could go to the front, it could go to the back. We had to get past this pan hard rod right here, so we ended up rolling this bracket out a little ways, kind of helped. So you can see that we've definitely got this room here. So now we're kind of looking at this link arm. Something to consider when you're setting this stuff up is that when the vehicle is going down track, does it operate in separation? Does it operate in squat? Like what might be the real ride height that the vehicle is operating at under load? So I know lots of times the internet will say the anti-roll bar arm should be perpendicular or parallel to the ground at ride height. Well, if it doesn't drive down the track at ride height, then maybe it shouldn't be parallel at ride height. So I'm trying to mitigate this angle the best I can. Remember that this arm, since this distance will not change, right? As the suspension goes up, the arm acts like it gets closer to the ground, right? So I'm gonna probably be in this like 15-degree range or so. We're gonna go ahead and set the vehicle down and kind of just see what this looks like, just to get a feel for it and see what that link arm length is. I ended up having to mount the anti-roll bar off to the side about 3/4 of an inch because of how goofy these frame rails are. My initial measurements kind of showed that it was a little bit wonky, but it's definitely more offset than than what I kind of thought I was going to get away with. So we ended up just moving this over a little bit. Not really a big deal. The pumpkins are offset because the ring gear is off to one side, the pinion's off to the other side. Not going to make any sort of difference. It's just if you pull a tape measure on it, you're going to be able to see like, hey, this thing is offset 1/2 inch. So, but it made it so the link arms land perfectly on the frame rails, and I think that that's more important as far as engineering is concerned than that. We are also going to put. He had some tie-down tabs that were right there that we had to cut off. So now I'm just going to go ahead and weld that tab right there. So that'll be super nice out of the way and really help for making it easy to tie down. So there you go. So remember, you can always just tack weld things and weld them, tack weld them, measure, check, drop it down on the ground, especially if it's on a hoist, it's really easy. You also could very easily take these springs out and cycle the housing without that. I'm just going to set it on the ground and see what the ride height looks like. So yeah, that's that's it. I'll finish this video off with it fully installed with with all the proper nuts and bolts on it and the link arms on it, and that'll wrap this up. So hopefully this has been helpful. Oh, and so yeah, so last thing is on this anti-roll bar link arm mounting solution here. This is just a little flat tab, 2 by something or other, and it's just going to fit right up there on the frame rail. It's kind of double that surface area up and make it so it's got something to beef onto. And you know, welded a couple tabs right there, and away we go. So we decided to, on this install, that I just grabbed another piece of 1/8" material and made a wider platform. We grabbed these 2 little outside frame rail pieces and then doubled this up. This exterior piece, even though this frame rail is definitely 2 walls, are my plate, my 2x3 plate or whatever it is, 1.5 by 2, whatever that sizing was on that, is would be only on this other piece. So we went ahead and just squared this out. This frame rail is definitely thicker. It's not as wide, it's not as big and flat and bulbous. So it spans press brake to press brake and will grab all this stuff. So that side, we decided to add one. This side I've decided doesn't need it. Obviously, if you feel like you need it, go ahead and add it. A little extra material to spread the load, never hurt anything. Okay, so this is all wrapped up. So things to consider. So we ended up, you can see there's a little bit of angle in the anti-roll bar link arm. This is because the panhard bar, right? So the panhard bar, as soon as you set the car down, starts to push the rear end housing to the driver's side. So I measured it while it was down on the ground and found out how much it was shifting over, and then added that back to here. This isn't actually the full amount because the car is going to operate a little bit in separation. So it's going to be somewhere between here and ride height is where this is going to be. So these link arms will never technically be perfectly straight up and down unless whatever the specific ride height is that makes them straight up and down, which is slightly higher than static. So those are things to consider. There's angle headed rearward, right? Because as the arm flattens out, it's going to push this bolt hole further back. And also, lower control arm, so you can see how much angle you have in the lower control arm. As this approaches ride height, this pushes the rear end housing back too. So these are all things that you can double check and find in mock-up and make sure that you can clear everything that you need to clear between droop extension like the length, you know, the full length of the shock, and then something close to bump if you can manage it. So there you go, all done. On to the next one.